Hey everyone, welcome back to The Lookout. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is The Lookout channel. We cover wildfire, forestry, prescribed fire, fire science, and our mission here at The Lookout is to increase people's literacy about wildfire, how it works, how they get fought, the tactics. Hang on, I'm getting something talking in my ear here. All right. Yeah, so my background's in wildfire science and mapping. I've been working on major fires in California on the mapping side since about 2000. And what we do here at Lookout is we find open source intel off the internet from sources that we've learned about across my career and from the webcams and TV cameras and whatever else we can get. And we put it all together and we deliver it in kind of map format. So appreciate you joining us tonight. We're going to talk about the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. And there's a new fire taking off in Hollywood Hills right now. So we're going to talk about that too. Just give me 1 second. All right. I want to thank my friend Michael Steinberg, who's out on the ground with live stream media. NorCal Storm Chaser, and he sent me some good photos today, including the cover photo for this. We'll go through those. And we want to talk a bit tonight about how urban fires behave. You know, I noticed already the blame game starting. Obviously, there's a ton of hurt and sadness and everything else, but the first reaction of a lot of people is to blame someone, and you know, we want to talk a bit about that. There's plenty of blame to go around, and but we gotta be learning here too. So we're gonna start off just with the kind of situation report of the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, and then we'll get into a little more focused information and discussion. All right, so this is the Palisades fire in red. And over here in light blue is the Franklin fire that burned in Malibu in the end of November. So basically what happened yesterday, the fire started off, magic mouse thing going here. Fire started off up here kind of around the summit, right down here. And it blasted down into Pacific Palisades. And the wind was coming from this direction, kind of from the northeast. So north is up here. The winds were kind of basically going this way. And so the fire ran within a few hours almost all the way to the coast. And then it kind of, combination of the winds and the terrain, pretty much, we were talking yesterday about how we thought that the fire was going to continue to burn out to the west. And that's basically what it did over the course of last night. By late last night, early this morning, the fire had moved all the way down here and hit this Franklin fire, which kind of acted as this big kind of catcher's mitt. This black area of the fire stopped the fire from going into Malibu. And this end of the fire now is almost certainly kind of completely done as far as a threat to Malibu. The fire is still active, especially on the north side. For the most part, it's run to the ocean and there's nothing left to burn. And it's kind of been spotting its way today through all these neighborhoods. So I haven't seen any really kind of high quality satellite imagery or anything of the damage, but I've heard that it's extensive, but there's lots of there's a lot of variety out here, and we don't really know at this point very well what did and did not burn within this larger area. So this perimeter was collected today at what time? Looks like it's about 1 o'clock. Last night we were kind of predicting that the fire might run all the way down Rustic Canyon here. And we don't really know what's happened there this afternoon. We've got satellite heat detection data, and that data shows that the fire's moved all the way down to the beach here, including Rustic Canyon. Like I've said before, we don't like to count on the satellite heat maps without verification of other sources. So we'll be keeping an eye open for an updated aerial perimeter, just because oftentimes these satellites, if there's a lot of heat in the smoke column or anything else, it can throw it off. One thing I will say is that looking from Santa Monica, from Wilshire, on the alert webcam here in the last few hours, this is kind of the last 6-hour loop from Santa Monica. And towards the end, right at the very end here, you can see the fire through the afternoon is burning here, kind of down in the bottom there of Rustic Canyon. And at the very end, you can see what looks like fire kind of reaching all the way to the ocean here, visible from Santa Monica. I can't really tell if that's just a bunch of cars or if that's fire, but you can see that the fire was still active down by the coast. Also, looking at the satellite heat detection, you can see that the red is what's active in the last 6 hours. And so you can really see that, sorry, that mouse isn't working. You can see that heat of the fire that's burning kind of with gravity now up towards Topanga. And it hasn't reached Topanga yet, or it hadn't at the time of this. But as we've talked about, there's always this kind of pretty regular pattern that when the Santa Ana wind that's been blowing mainly from the north and east, when that kind of pressure system moves out of the Great Basin, we return to our normal onshore flow, and then gravity and the onshore wind are kind of aligned for these fires to move out from the coast. So Topanga's kind of in a real tough spot here for the next few days. The winds are supposed to be calming down a little bit, but we're supposed to get another push of the Santa Ana winds going into Friday. And so that will stir up whatever, any new starts will behave similarly to what we've just had, but then once the Santa Anas are over, we got to worry about the fires moving inland. And so far, there hasn't been a lot of kind of coordinated firefighting happening on the perimeters of these fires. The focus is definitely on the urban areas. All right, so there's another fire up here in Silmar, Santa Clarita kind of, and haven't heard a whole lot about that one. That one hasn't really done a lot in the last, say, 12, 18 hours. We are keeping an eye on it just because of the weather and everything, but I have a feeling this area's had kind of more recent fires. This area burned 6 years ago, 5 years ago in the Saddle Ridge fire. And so, that definitely tends to take a lot of the heat out of a new fire. It's only got like 5 years worth of brush to burn. So coming over here to Altadena, someone said, no, Kurt, there are no fires in Hollywood. Well, there is actually. We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll cover the Hollywood Hills fire as soon as we get kind of through the beginning here. All right, so last night when we signed off this Eaton fire, it hadn't done a lot. It was still kind of perched up on the mountain, and by like maybe midnight, it was kind of out in this area that's a little darker red. Overnight, the fire blasted down here into Altadena, and as you can see from this structure map, the structures are yellow. There's a gazillion structures within the footprint of this fire. So this red outline we have here is kind of a rough estimate of where we think the footprint of the Eaton fire is, based on these satellite heat detections. And as we said, we hate to count on those, but right now it's the best we've got because sounds like they're having problems with the infrared plane that flies out of Southern California, and they brought a plane down from Northern California to map Palisades fire, but we haven't seen a new perimeter yet for the Eaton fire. So what we do here, we're going to put some more detailed maps up on the Lookout website, lookout.org, and we'll put a link in here to that. We'll take you through here real quick just to kind of give you the rough boundary of where we think the Eaton fire is. Got Lincoln Avenue here. Here's JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Foothill Boulevard, and the 210. We got Woodbury across here to Lake Ave. And then across New York Drive. So as I said before, we don't really know exactly how they made this perimeter, how many homes within this are destroyed. There's not a lot, not a lot of great intel at this point besides what we're getting from the heat satellites. But yeah, red is our guess at the extent of the fire overall. But there's no guarantee that that's all continuous or anything. Once fires get into urban neighborhoods, they tend to kind of spread in landscaping through embers and, burn spotty and jump around and burn what they can. All right, so that's the Eaton fire. So yeah, there's a new fire in Hollywood, and this is the last 30 minutes. So looking, we'll show it on a map in a minute, but this is it's in the Hollywood Hills, and it's burning towards the south, towards Hollywood Boulevard. And on this map, it's burning in Runyon Canyon. We just called it Runyon Canyon Fire because when we first heard about it, we hadn't heard. It sounds like maybe it's been called the Sunset Fire. Here's Hollywood Boulevard. We're looking kind of basically north. The fire's burning up in here, and it's kind of spreading down towards Hollywood Boulevard. TV Channel 7 has some live coverage of that. And see if we can bring that in here for you. So it's grown quite a bit here in the last 15 to 30 minutes. This one hasn't burned any homes yet, as far as we can tell, according to the TV reporters. But it is it's getting pushed this direction towards civilization, such as it is. And watching the TV news, those folks are so hysterical. Like I can barely watch it. Man, it stresses me out. Yeah, fires. Fire's intense, of course, and but getting hysterical about it doesn't help. I've been working in emergency management my whole career, and you don't want people like that around you when things are going bad. You don't want that. I think that's part of our problem with wildfires. It's crazy. It's crazy how sensationalized and oh no, it's really hard for me to listen to that stuff. I think for most of you guys, probably. Anyway, that's the story right now. Fire's burning towards Hollywood. We don't know what's going to happen there either. But what we do know is what we've showed you on the maps. And I want to show some photos right now and just talk a bit about how these fires burn. These are from Michael Steinberg, NorCal Storm Chasing. He's been live streaming from the fire on Instagram. And he's a young guy here, Chico State geography student, represent, and he's down there in Palisades. So he sent me this picture to show the difference between how small differences in building construction make a difference in homes surviving or not. This house doesn't have any eaves. It doesn't have soffitted eaves. It's real tidy. It's got, this looks like some sort of it's well kept. Little things like maintaining, cleaning out your gutters, but also maintaining the edges, the corners of your roof and stuff like that are super important for protecting your house. But what is really happening with a lot of these fires is that the landscaping acts as an extension of the wildland. And so basically the fire sees no break in the wildland versus the ornamentation. And then the stuff just it catches your house on fire. And so we've really been emphasizing in wildfire the importance of clearing at least the first couple feet, even just a couple feet, 2 or 3 feet down to like concrete or gravel or something. Keep your landscape from touching your house. There's another one, it's a beautiful yard. It's beautifully landscaped and everything, but all this stuff is flammable. And this time of year, end of a long drought, no rain, anything else. This is just, this is why it's burning house to house without firefighters there. When it's this dry, just about anything is flammable, And Christmas lights are still on. Anyway, Steinberg, thank you for sharing this stuff. I think it's important to break down how these things happen, and that a big part of this conversation is about, we tend to talk about wildland fire as if it's all brush and trees and everything, but these fires aren't wildland fires, and we got to be really careful with our language. These fires are urban conflagrations, and that's a different thing. We've been having urban conflagrations, the Great Fire of Chicago. Every town in the West basically burned down in the past, and that's why they ended up building downtowns out of brick. But when you've got a landscape like this, the fuel is the homes, and if you just have one house on fire and you get 4 fire trucks there, you can put it out. But if you have one fire truck or no fire trucks, the radiant heat is going to catch the next house on fire. So I think it's important that we don't get too caught up in like wildland lingo about defensible space and all that. That stuff is important, but that stuff isn't really. It doesn't mean the same thing in a dense urban environment as it means in Lake Tahoe or the Sierra Nevada foothills or something like that, where people have bigger lots and more leeway to kind of manage them. Here, you're at the mercy of, once this, especially, and just kind of breaking down this fire, the layout of these neighborhoods really affects how fires carry through them. So here we've got this kind of gully here that was kind of perfectly aligned with the prevailing winds. Here come the northeast winds. They get down in this gully or they get on this ridge, and they just blow the fire from house to house to house to house to house. Now, it's not easy to divvy up a landscape into parcels and everything else, but engineers and fire kind of tend to think alike in my experience, where engineers want to build a road on a contour, all these things that make like a sewer system work well and everything else. They also help fire to follow the contour of the land and just burn house to house to house. And once these lots are all built, it's really hard to go back and people are going to come back and they're going to rebuild here, and they're going to rebuild the exact same urban configuration that led to the destruction of this community. Kind of guaranteeing that the same thing's going to happen again in 40, 50 years after we're all gone. Rebuilding a neighborhood out of stick frame houses in the same configuration that they took this fire, it's a guarantee that it's going to happen again. And so in a lot of these places that are all built out, it's too late to really fix it. If we're building new communities on the landscape, it's a good time to think about what can we learn. Would it work better if the roads were laid out different, if the houses were staggered, if the flames from one house went into the next house's backyard instead of right into the person's bathroom window. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff we talk about here on the Lookout. We get guests on here. We're interested in learning from this stuff. And I see over in the comments, these corrupt people are always burning something down. We will rebuild. It's like, okay, well, be my guest. I'd rather everyone here rebuild where they're at than, oh man, I'm sorry. I know things are tense. I'm just saying, think about the next fire too. Okay. So let's jump over and check back in with our Hollywood fire here. I think the thing about these fires, though, is just that they're inevitable, right? The winds have been blasting on this landscape for um, millions of years, and the vegetation grows. And when these Santa Ana winds blow, I've been on the fires, and I was on the Cedar Fire in 2003 in San Diego County. I was on the Pumacha Fire in San Diego County in 2007. When these events happen, we don't put them out. Firefighters can't do anything about a Santa Ana driven fire, and so there's finger pointing. It's not great that they ran out of water, but when a bunch of houses burn down, all the water pipes melt, and all the water in these water systems drains out. So unless you've got like a ginormous lake up on top of the hill above your city, millions of gallons of water get used in the firefight, in the burnt homes, in that chaos, and it's there's not a lot that can be done really to change these outcomes. I don't know what's going on here. I think it's a UFO or something. Maybe that's what started the fire. All right, so what are we going to talk about here? I wanted to look at Topanga. So this is in Topanga Canyon, is looking out to the southeast. We'll get it on a map in a minute, but this is kind of what the fire is currently doing, kind of north of Pacific Palisades. So that webcam's kind of looking out into this area here, like around the Eagle Rock trailhead. So you can see that fire spread quite a bit since this was mapped earlier today. People are talking about cob structures over here, concrete. I think, the thing is, we got to be creative. We got to think about something different than just wood, because it's a proven failure point. Okay, so someone wants to hear about the chances of the fire moving kind of into Santa Monica. Right now, the winds are fairly favorable in that they're coming from this way to that way, pushing offshore. And so let's just look a bit at the winds here. Sorry, I got a lot going on here. Give me a second. So this is kind of the 1 o'clock perimeter, and here's Santa Monica. and our winds are kind of coming almost pretty northerly, but they've slacked down. They're 10 miles an hour, and yesterday at this time they were 30 to 40. So that's a really good thing. And 6 hours out, they're still coming out that same direction, and they're still fairly mild. 12 hours out, the same. So we're into a lull in the winds a bit, which is it's good news. We're not out of the woods completely, say, with that Hollywood fire, but it's a great improvement over where we were 24 hours ago. The winds are supposed to pick up tomorrow night, I think, a bit. I haven't done a bunch of work on that. So right now things aren't looking terrible for Santa Monica. We don't really know, like I said, what's going on here in Rustic Canyon. But I'm pretty sure the fire is kind of here down to the bottom of Rustic Canyon. But generally, we don't expect fires don't move very fast perpendicular to the wind. They move away from the wind. I think there's very low likelihood that the fire is going to get into Malibu at this point, just because Malibu is completely surrounded by the Franklin fire. And so this is just all black. There's nothing to burn out there. So even if the fire, continues to burn and comes all the way around, Malibu is pretty well surrounded. These black lines here are bulldozer lines that were put in during the Franklin fire, and hand lines. You can see where they kind of put hand line all along the edge. So that's why the fire just went out here. And that's what we see a lot, is that when you have landscape scale fires, that one of the only things that stops them under severe weather is hitting a recent burn or something that's burned in the last few years. All right, I'm getting questions about various things. Only thing I really have intel on right now is Eaton and Malibu. With the Eaton fire, we don't know. We really don't have a very clear picture of what's going on there. We know that on these heat satellites that there was a lot of heat in these neighborhoods, and I've got kind of zero on the ground intel out there. And so, you might look around and see what else you can find from someone who knows better. Questions on questions on the wind event coming up. Let's see what we got up here. Let's check the forecast here for Santa Monica, downtown LA. All right. So here's the LA City weather. We're saying that tonight the winds are out of the north 18 to 15. Tomorrow the winds are out of the northeast 6 to 12, increasing 10 to 15 in the afternoon, which is not bad. Thursday night the winds are only 5 to 10. Friday the winds are going to become northwest 10 to 15. So let's check it for maybe something a little more spicy. Riverside area forecast. So I'm trying to get fire weather forecast. Here we go. Okay, so tomorrow night, gusts to 40 in Riverside area. turning the gust to 45 later, and then Friday the gusts are going to be 40, and then slacking in the afternoon. Sustained winds are below 20 miles an hour starting Friday. So it looks like, at least for like the Riverside area, got to get through the next 2 days, really. Back to Hollywood here. As far as moving fast. I'll check out the Hearst fire in a minute. Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is just these spots. Everything's so dry that spot fires quickly become a whole new problem. All right, we'll come back to that. I'm not sure how long I'll stay on. Trying to find the right length to do these things. Otherwise, I just kind of end up blabbing and saying stuff that don't think about enough. So there's a question about if the fire out here, this Silmar, and this fire could merge. I really don't think that we're going to have a fire that burns aggressively in the valley. That's just a gut feeling. I do think that there's potential for this fire to get very large, continue to grow. We'll have to see what the weather does and what other fires start, right? Because we still have several days of critical fire weather, and if new fires start, we'll have less resources to fight this kind of backcountry part of this particular fire. So I think what's interesting to look at is if you look at the fire history, like if we look at, say, the 1950s, you see, these fires are, some of them are pretty large. And those tell you kind of what the potential is when you've got large areas of contiguous fuel and difficult conditions. Like we have big fires. The Wright fire was 30,000 acres. The Cannon fire was 25,000 acres. The Clampett fire in 1970 was 115,000. Right, so these fires are still relatively small by Santa Ana fire kind of historic standards. So it wouldn't be surprising to see this fire continue to burn up through Topanga and out into this larger area out here, in part because it's dry, but also because if you look at the fire history from the last 25 years, there's no fire history in this area. And then you've got a fire that burned a lot of this area in 1993, so 30 years ago. So oftentimes 30-year-old brush burns as if there's never been a fire at all, just because it's old enough to have a lot of dead material. So that's the potential, and that's kind of the worry here over the next few days is containing the north side of this fire. So onshore winds that we get maybe on, let's see, if we go over and look at our weather forecast again. They don't have the wind direction in here right now, but the thing I like to use is Windy, the Windy app. So if you look at, say if we're looking at this particular fire here, Topanga, we can look at the wind direction here over like out through the weekend. So we've got north winds through until Saturday, and then we start to get a little onshore Saturday afternoon, more kind of northish wind, but Sunday afternoon onshore. Monday still a bit of a northerly flow. Anyway, Windy app's cool. It's free, and you can pick different models. You can see what the different models, like they have different time periods that they predict, and some are better than others. And I'm not enough of a weatherhead to really tell you which model I prefer, but they're good for showing like when you're going to have strong winds and what direction the wind's going to come from, and etc. Chance of rain, etc. Yeah, I see a lot of the comments here about the politics and the misconception. I think thank you for pointing out that not everyone out here had insurance, and that not everyone out here was gazillionaire. For a lot of us that are like living afar and looking at these houses that have these crazy property values, it's easy to kind of forget that a wide variety of types of people live in all these different places, and that everyone is going through the loss the same, whether they're rich or poor. Shout out to my moderators. Keep it civil, folks. We're not here to talk about direct energy weapons or melted car transmissions from laser death rays shot from Chinese satellites, any of that. Like, the physics are pretty clear. These fires we've been having Santa Ana fires for a lot longer than there have been Jewish space lasers. Question about national forest and federal firefighters. A lot of them are laid off right now. A lot of the hotshot crews are seasonal. Even most of the engine crews up here are seasonal, and so a lot of contractors are coming in. Contract fire crews, even from Oregon, are coming in right now because the Fed crews, there's just a lot of them aren't available. A lot of them weren't available during fire season. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the lookout here. This is our website, Lookout. We've got interviews on here that we've done with interesting people about fire and fuels and prescribed fire. We've got all these different categories. We've got fire management history, forest history. A lot of this is in the form of live streams you've done on various fires, but then we'll find, like maybe one whole live stream on a forest fire, we'll be talking about the firing operations and how the fire was fought. We've got stuff organized by year. We've got info on specific fires. We've got stuff on fire weather, where we tag broadcasts we've done that are specifically to talk a lot about the weather that's driving the fire. Firing operations, how we use fire to fight fire, and a lot of the kind of more arcane details of how big fires get fought. Land management, logging, Native Americans. Like we kind of go all over the place with this channel, but it's all about fire. So, and it's all on our website. So, if you're into this, if you're finding you're interested in this stuff, how fire works on the landscape, check out our website. Check out our sponsor's website, QTAC. They make really cool firefighting equipment and we use it a lot with our prescribed fires. We do a lot of prescribed burning up here around Chico, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff on prescribed fire. And this is all supported by you, the viewers. So if you enjoy this stuff and you want to support us, you can subscribe here through PayPal and give us $5, $10, $15, $10,000 a month. We'll take it. I'm working on doing more of this, doing this more full time. So this is a project. The Lookout's a project, and if you want to rock our merch, we got hats, we got stickers. My wife's making some really nice mugs right now. She does ceramics. Check out the Lookout. I'll answer some questions here. But yeah, subscribe to the YouTube too. It helps us expand our view, and then you hear about what we're up to. Someone says, do you mind what crew I work on? I've been working for the last 8 years for Deer Creek Resources, and that company's owned by Firestorm. So Firestorm's a big contractor here in Northern California. I've been working as a burn boss with Deer Creek Resources. Before that, I worked for 10 years as a contractor for a company called North Tree Fire. I don't really share my Google Earth layers, but if you're a techie and you want to learn how to do this stuff, send me a message through the Lookout. You can get a hold of me via this link on our website. All right. So we got another website we follow a lot is the Wildfire Intel Forum. Put that in the chat here. It's kind of a discussion forum about wildfire. Most of the people who volunteer on this forum are retired fire people or active fire people or knowledgeable. Good place to look. You know, if you look in here, the questions section, there's a lot of stuff. There's interesting links. There's maps. There's just kind of intel from people listening to scanners. I wanted to come back here and check out in Wilshire if that's a fire actually at the end of down there at the beach. I can't really tell. Looks like cars. Yeah, it looks like stoplight or something. Someone wants to check out Tim Chavez again. Tim Chavez is one of our friends who comes on the Lookout once in a while. Any thoughts on what could be done in the future to mitigate these Santa Ana fires? Let's just kind of look around the Pacific Palisades and talk about that a little bit. Give me a second here to see if I can get my mouse to work. Got a separate mouse. There. My space mouse isn't working. Just some thoughts on fireproofing communities that have Santa Ana winds. I think one place to start, and I know like it's called the Palisades because people like living on cliffs, but if there are no homes on the edge of this was just a park. You could maybe maintain these fuels and you could have a place where you'd catch fires that were burning in the wildland. But as long as there's like a bunch of houses stapled to the edge of the cliff on the edge of the city, it's almost impossible to like keep these fires from getting into the community. Because as soon as this brush, if you could, we talk a lot about prescribed fire and its utility for like managing vegetation, and it's almost impossible to use prescribed fire in Southern California in urban areas. Between the smoke, the risk of an escape, and the fact that you have to burn brush when it's dry. If you want to consume enough of the brush to actually like reduce the fuel loading, you've got to burn it when it's going to burn hot. And so it's pretty tough to like find a window where you can come in and you can burn brush like close to community, around nursing homes, hospitals, high schools, everything else. So prescribed fires, like I love it. We do it a lot in the brush out here in the woods, in lower density. But it's not going to be a tool that really is going to save the day in Southern California. Maybe in some really backcountry areas, or it's feel good stuff to do little projects, but it's not going to happen at the scale it needs to, like in the urban interface. So that leaves cutting brush by hand, and cutting brush by hand is it's expensive and difficult, and nearly impossible on these types of slopes. So we talk about like, well, if all these homes on this edge of this canyon were burnt, would it be a good time to try to buy this and turn it into a park? Would the community be better off at large if this was all a big park? And probably anyone who lives on the edge of the cliff here is going to say, no, that's a really bad idea. I want to move back into my house. It's a really cool spot. So that's one of the things that just makes these problems kind of intractable, is you've got tens of thousands of stakeholders that most people don't want to be told what to do. Most people don't want to be told, you're going to have to give up your place. And most people don't want to spend a ton of money on real estate to like do something proactive. So there's a lot of inertia that's keeping these problems occurring, and then us rebuilding these urban configurations that are really prone to destruction on, every 30 to 50 to 60 years. And if you happen to own this house for the 30 years when that doesn't happen, then it's great. But and someone says, well, it didn't help not having water. Well, it's like, well, I talked to a reporter today, and they said, did that make a difference? And I think what I'd like to show you here is where the fire was when they ran out of water. Let's see if it'll. My computer, I got the rainbow, the spinning rainbow of death here in my Google Earth. People are talking about goats over here. Goats are great. They're cute, and they're fuzzy, and then when you're done grazing all that, you can make birria tacos. My favorite. So there's lots of great reasons to use goats. I think my Google Earth just crashed here. Feeling the pressure. All right, back to the hysterical news helicopter. Traffic jams, arm waving. I got another beef with TV news. Is they've got like they got this fixation with the big flames. They're like a 4-year-old. Like they zoom in on the biggest flame, so you can have a fire that's like out, but there's like one tree on fire. and they'll zoom in on that tree for like half an hour and talk about how the fire is still uncontrolled. And I think it's natural. Fire's photogenic, and we've always liked looking at it. But I think we need more videos of small flames, because especially a lot of the forest fires we cover, a lot of the flames are small. They're backing down. They're doing good stuff in the woods, and we get traumatized by all these big flames all the time. I'm gonna go back and see if my computer woke up. Hey, it's back. Okay, so yesterday, it's dying again. But what I want to say is yesterday, the fire was already like freaking massive when they started running out of water. So they started running out of water up here. The fire was already like huge and out of control. And there was really not a lot of coordinated firefighting that happened yesterday. And during a Santa Ana, there is no coordinated firefighting. Like, firefighters run around and they try to save people's lives, and they try to help people evacuate, and they try to do what they can. Oftentimes what happens is called fire front following. So the fire is too intense to attack directly. So you wait for the fire to blast through, and then you try to save what you can once the intensity dies down enough so that you can be there without dying. And so I would wager that it didn't help that they ran out of water. But it didn't change, like, it wasn't like they were going to put the fire out if they ran out of water. So yeah, it might have affected their ability to put out a few houses. But once a house is on fire and you've got like one fire truck there, like, you're not going to save that house. And if the house catches on fire and you put it out, like, and save the house is ruined by smoke and water damage and everything else. So this it's kind of a distraction, I think, to get mad at the politicians, to get mad at the LA City Department of Water and Power. Like, we don't get mad at the city when like a hurricane comes and or a tornado comes and it blows all the houses away. But somehow we treat the Santa Ana differently. Like, somehow we expect that somehow we can manage this. But if a tornado came and flattened 500 homes, like, no one's going to get mad at the mayors in Ghana or something. So why is it different for wildfire? That's my question. Is start thinking of Santa Ana as a force of nature, or like you live in Tornado Alley. It just happens that this tornado comes in the form of a big, fast, gnarly fire. All right. All right. A lot of speculation about how the fire started, who started it. What we haven't done, I haven't seen anyone blame the homeless yet. Like, that's popular. Blame the homeless, maybe blame the immigrants. One thing I will say is, fire investigators are really good at what they do, and you give them time. It sometimes takes a really long time, but they're really good at figuring out what happened. And like, everyone wants to know right away, was this arson? It's like, unless someone saw someone driving away from here with like a gas can and a lighter, like, no one's gonna know for a long time, probably. And it doesn't do any good to go there, I think. Regardless if this was started by arson or a power line or anything else, like, you got millions of people living in close proximity to each other in windy, dry conditions. And it could be anything. It could be, chains dragging on a trailer. It could be a car wreck. It could be a power line. It could be an old broken bottle that focuses the light like a magnifying glass onto a piece of dry wood. Like, we're going to continue to have ignitions in these places, and we'll continue to have these fire busts. And I think that, this fire history layer that shows all the fires you've had in SoCal in the last long time, like, that's the story there. Is like, this is a place that has lots of fires, and it doesn't, there's nothing really political about it. All right. Well, I think that's about what we got. Almost an hour in. I think that's enough talking. We'll look for a new perimeter in the morning. I think we're seeing a bit of a lull right now. Hopefully we don't have any new starts. So just to wrap up, someone says even a fully funded fire department couldn't stop this force of nature. California's got more firefighters in Southern California than most countries have. And yeah, it wouldn't make a difference. You could have the entire U.S. Army out here with fire swatters and piss pumps, and you're not going to stop Santa Ana. So I'm just going to wrap this up here. The fire started yesterday in the summit area above Pacific Palisades, the Palisades fire. Moved downhill. It was immediately pretty much into dense neighborhoods, and firefighting was difficult, in part because of poor access, in part because of evacuating traffic. Traffic jams on Palisades Road, traffic jams on Sunset Boulevard. Over the next 18 hours or so, the fire spread all the way up to Malibu. It's the only reason it stopped when it did is it hit a more recent fire, Franklin Fire. It's burned all the way to the coast from Malibu to Santa Monica. Large portions of Pacific Palisades are destroyed. The true damage isn't really known, but we'll have satellite imagery in the next couple of days to look at. These perimeters are hours old now and might not really reflect how far the fire is coming to Santa Monica. Fire is now moving. The red is the active parts of the fire, moving up towards Topanga. Winds are a little bit more slack, but still coming out of the north, which is slowing the spread of the fire in that direction, but not a lot of control lines currently existing on this north side of the fire. There's a new fire above Hollywood that we don't have a lot of information on. Eaton Fire was really active overnight, pushed significantly into Altadena and down towards Pasadena. It's burning unchecked up in the Angeles National Forest, where it will hit the 2020 Bobcat Fire, and that may slow it down. It looks like it's already kind of, maybe parts of it are bumping the Bobcat Fire. Farther on, it'll hit the station fire, which is now 15 years old. May or may not slow it down. This other fire we don't have much info on up at Silmar. And that's your summary. We'll get back on. This is that's the bridge fire. I'm not sure why I have it on there. We'll get back up here in the morning and give you an update. In the meantime, check out our other videos and check out thelookout.org. And don't forget to follow the channel. Thanks, Wildfire 371. Yeah, we could talk about this stuff all night, but gotta rest. Thanks, everyone. Catch you later.
SWB audio capture, not registered. SWB audio capture, not registered.